Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the morning Bhagavatam class at ISKCON Naperville. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter number 7 and verse number 17. So I'll begin quickly with my prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurau Shriyotapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashate Deshitarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So let me share my screen. Okay, I will read the verse, synonyms, translation, and purport, and then we will briefly discuss this verse. Jayayan gunayavarajo api adite sutanam lokan vichakrama imam yad athadhiyagnaha kshamam vamanena jagrihe tripada chalena yachnam rite pathi charan prabhubhir na chalayah. Synonyms or word-to-word meaning. Jayayan, the greatest, Gunai, by qualities, Avarajaha, transcendental, Api, although he is so, Adite, of Aditi, Sutanam, of all the sons known as Adityas, Lokan, all the planets, Vichakrame, surpassed, Imam in this universe, Yat, one who, Atha, therefore, Adhiyagna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kshamam, all the lands, Vamanena, in the incarnation of Vamana, Jagrihe, accepted, Tripada, 3 steps, Chalena, by pretension, Yachanam, begging, Rite, without, Pathi Charan, passing over the right path, Prabhu Bhi, by authorities, Na, never, to be, Chalyaha, to be bereft of. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The Lord, although transcendental to all material modes, still surpassed all the qualities of the sons of Aditi, known as Adityas. The Lord appeared as the youngest son of Aditi, and because he surpassed all the planets of the universe, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the pretense of asking for a measurement of 3 footsteps of land, he took away all the lands of Bali Maharaj. He asked simply because without begging, no authority can take one's rightful possession. Purport. One second, I need to reply to someone. Purport. The history of Bali Maharaj and his charity to Vaman Dev is described in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bali Maharaj conquered all the planets of the universe by rightful possession. A king can conquer other kings by strength, and such possession is considered to be rightful. So Bali Maharaj possessed all the lands of the universe, and he happened to be charitably disposed towards the Brahmanas. The Lord therefore pretended to be a beggar Brahmana, and he asked Bali Maharaj for a measurement of 3 footsteps of land. The Lord, as the proprietor of everything, could take from Bali Maharaj all the land he possessed, but he did not do so because Bali Maharaj possessed all those lands by king's rights. When Bali Maharaj was asked by Lord Vamana for such small charity, Bali Maharaj's spiritual master, namely Shukracharya, objected to his proposal because he knew that Vaman Dev was Vishnu himself, pretending to be a beggar. Bali Maharaj did not agree to abide by the order of his spiritual master when he understood that the beggar was Vishnu himself, and he at once agreed to give him in charity the land requested. By this agreement, Lord Vamana covered all the lands of the universe with his first 2 steps and then asked Bali Maharaj where to place the 3rd step. Bali Maharaj was very glad to receive the Lord's remaining step upon his head, and thus Bali Maharaj, instead of losing everything he possessed, was blessed by the Lord's, becoming his constant companion and doorman. So, by giving everything to the cause of the Lord, one does not lose anything, but he gains everything that he could never otherwise expect. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Swapadantikam. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? So continuing on the different incarnations of the Lord, here the verse is about Bali Maharaj and Vaman Dev. So Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, as Vaman Dev, had come on the request of the demigods. He had taken his birth in the family of Aditi's child. Aditi is the wife of Kashyapa Muni, and all the demigods are the sons of Aditi, and therefore all the sons are called Adityas. And Vaman Dev took birth from Aditi because she had a desire to have the Lord as her child, and therefore Vaman Dev took birth from Aditi as Vaman Dev. And here we see that in the translation we see that so on the pretense of asking for a measurement of 3 footsteps of land, he took away all the lands of Bali Maharaj. He asked simply because without begging, no authority can take one's rightful possession. So Bali Maharaj had rightfully possessed all the lands in the universe, all the 3 worlds in the universe. Rightfully meaning he was a king, even a king of the demons, and he had fought with the demigods, and he had rightfully possessed all the land. And who is Bali Maharaj is the owner of all the land, or he is the possessor of all the lands. That's within the material universe. Now, who is the owner, actual owner of everything? We know that it is the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the ultimate possessor. So he, being the ultimate possessor or the proprietor of everything, had the right to simply take away the land without asking. But here we see that he asks simply because without begging, no authority can take one's rightful possession. So even when Krishna or Lord Vishnu comes, they act out of they act uh, for the purpose of the general people, meaning like they act to set an example. And here the example they are setting is that without begging, one cannot ask one's rightful possession. So within the material universe, Bali Maharaj had possessed the lands. And even though the Lord Vishnu is the ultimate possessor of the whole universe, but still he is coming and begging for the land. So that's one significant statement here. And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks very nicely in a small purport. He gives the whole story of the pastime of Vaman Dev interacting with Bali Maharaj. So here we see that Vaman Dev had gone to Bali Maharaj and asked for 3 steps of land. Now, Bali Maharaj was a pious. He was a demon, but he was very well studied in the scriptures, and he knew the ultimate goal of the scriptures, which is serving Lord Vishnu. And as part of that, he also had tremendous respect for the Brahmanas. And when Vaman Dev came as a Brahmana asking for 3 lands, A, he was very favorable to the Brahmanas, and B, what he was asking was very insignificant, 3 steps equivalent of land. Even though if he had asked anything, Bali Maharaj was so favorably disposed towards the Brahmanas that he would give anything. So he had agreed. However, his spiritual master, Shukracharya, had, after he had promised the Brahmana or Vamandev to give the 3 lands equivalent to 3 steps, Shukracharya told him that do not give, do not agree, but he had already promised. And Shukracharya tells the reason that do not agree because he is Lord Vishnu himself in the guise of a dwarf Brahmana. So at that point, Bali Maharaj, it's mentioned in the 8th canto, in this pastime mentioned in details, that Bali Maharaj took a few moments to think because he was in a dilemma. Number one, he had already promised to give land equivalent to 3 footsteps to Vamandev, to the dwarf Brahmana. Then, as a Kshatriya, he always kept promises. A Kshatriya always keeps the promises. And on the other side, Shukracharya was his spiritual master, and his duty was to obey the spiritual master. So it was a very severe or conflict, and that conflict had to be resolved. So what did he do? He decided to ignore his spiritual master's request. And this is, again, we are told that when we are in a dilemma, we should consult the scriptures. And the spiritual master's duty is to teach us the scriptures, the teachings of the scriptures, and live a life according to the scriptures. However, here his spiritual master himself was acting against the scripture. So what are some of the references in the scriptures? For example, there are many examples, like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshyasmi ma suchaha. And then in Srimad Bhagavatam also, fifth canto, fifth chapter 5.5.18, Rishabhadev is talking that Guru na sa syat swa jano na sa syat, pita na sa syaj, janani na sa syat, devam na tat syan, na patish cha sa syan, na mochayed yaha sampute mrityum. Translation: one who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. So here we can clearly see that if the spiritual master cannot deliver the disciple from the cycle of birth and death, he should not become a spiritual master. And again, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, there are qualities of the spiritual master mentioned, and same things are mentioned there also. So now one may ask or think that as a spiritual master, he knew what the scriptures said, even though he was a spiritual master of the demons, but still, the scriptures are scriptures. They are the same either for the demons or for the demigods or for anyone. So one may ask, why did he go against the scriptures? So listening to some other lectures of devotees and through the acharyas, understanding the mind of Shukracharya, we understand, or I came to know, that he was enjoying material opulences on behalf, because of Bali Maharaj's opulence. Because Bali Maharaj was a great king, he had all the land. Shukracharya was, as a spiritual master of the greatest king, he was enjoying that fame, wealth, the prestige, the position, everything. And he did not want to give up those material possessions. That greed, or that particular tendency or desire to enjoy the opulences, because of Bali Maharaj, he gave this instruction to his disciple Bali Maharaj, that do not give the 3 lands, because Vaman Dev, Lord Vishnu, just like he had killed your forefathers, he will again cheat you, and he may kill you. So do not do that. So at the root of that instruction, it was his own desire to enjoy. So that's why he had instructed what he instructed. However, Bali Maharaj, being a great king and educated himself, using these scriptures, because ultimately the scriptures say that surrender unto the Lord, and therefore he did exactly that. If it's Vishnu, and if Vishnu's wish is to ask for land equivalent to 3 footsteps, doing what he wants is surrender, whatever it might be. Even whatever, if he cheats, that's fine. So he did that. And because of that, Bali Maharaj is also glorified in the scriptures. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned that Bali Maharaj became one of the 12 Mahajanas because of his act to surrender to the Supreme Lord. He's also glorified as the person who personifies Atma Nivedan. So that's the pastime. And when he promised to Vamandev the three footsteps equivalent of land, like Srila Prabhupada mentions here in the purport, he, with the first two steps, Vamandev covered the whole of universe. So everything that Bali Maharaj possessed was covered. He became so big and his steps were so big that he was able to cover all the lands in just two steps, and the third step was still remaining. So he asked Bali Maharaj that I have covered everything with my two steps. Now, because you cannot fulfill your promise, I will punish you. And Bali Maharaj says, again, him being a devotee, he has the intelligence to reciprocate or to talk with the Lord. So he said that no, wait, I still have something which has not been covered. What is that? And he said that it's my own body, my own head. So that's why Atma Nivedanam. So Atma, based on the context, Atma can refer to the body, Atma can refer to the mind, Atma can refer to the gross body. So the soul, body, mind, and soul. And by giving him what he, in that sense, he said that this body, my mind, my soul is still mine, and you can put your third step on me. And Lord Vamandev was very pleased with that, and he did that. Now, when he surrendered, Prabhupada mentions here that Bali Maharaj was very glad to receive the Lord's remaining step upon his head, and thus Bali Maharaj, instead of losing everything he possessed, was blessed by the Lord's becoming his constant companion and doorman. So by giving everything to the cause of the Lord, one does not lose anything, but he gains everything that he could never otherwise expect. So these are some very significant statements, and in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also talks in the 4th chapter, Ye yathanam mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajami aham mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So Krishna reciprocates according to the level of surrender. And here, because Vamandev surrendered everything and himself to the Lord reciprocated and gave him everything. And in fact, the Lord gave himself to Bali Maharaj. So he created a separate planet, Sutal Loka, for him, placed him there, and the Lord Vamandev himself became his doorkeeper, gatekeeper, becoming his constant companion and doorman. So that is the mercy of the Lord. And we can see that from many such examples. Srila Prabhupada, he was a family man, and we know that his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, had come in his dream and asked him to join him and give up the family life, take sannyas. And Prabhupada had said a few times that he would think, no, how can I give up my family? But he did that a couple of times. And then when a devotee wants to serve the Lord, but yet is possessing or has the desire to possess the material things, Lord sometimes, not always, sometimes becomes very merciful and takes away the material opulences. The reason why I said sometimes and not always is also because many times devotees come and ask, if I become a devotee, will I lose everything? Well, it also, the level of devotee also, and like Prabhupada, and in Bhagavad Gita 4.11, like Krishna says, ye yathanam mam prapadyante. So to the degree one surrenders. And when Srila Prabhupada, he had that very sincere desire, and he facilitated by taking away his business one at a time. His servant had stolen everything from his shop, and then there was fire, and there was destruction, because of which it was not possible to recover. And Prabhupada had realized that this is what is happening. In the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that the Lord, if he becomes very merciful on his devotee, he can facilitate taking away the material possession so that he can completely surrender and serve 100% for the Lord, which is the devotee's desire. And we see that what he had family, he had children, and after he surrendered and he took sannyas and started preaching, we see that he got 10 or 100 times the number of children he had. He used to say, now I have 500 thousands of disciples, which are like my children, and they are serving me like servants. And he got so his material possessions and riches were taken away, but he was given so much wealth that he was being in terms of material wealth, the number of temples he had and the amount of money he was generating. Of course, he was using all the money and opulences for Krishna, because that's what a devotee's aim and goal and desire is. He has nothing for himself. Anything he gets is used for the Lord and his mission. But still, in terms of possession, he was the founder Acharya of ISKCON, and ISKCON in those days was generating so much of wealth in dollars that he was compared to Birlas and the richest persons in India. So this is the Lord's mercy. When we give something to the Lord, when we surrender something to the Lord, he gives multiple times of that back. He does not keep anything, or rather, that's his mercy, that's his reciprocation. So Bali Maharaj, by surrendering everything, he gained many times more, hundreds of thousands or a million times more. And from the Bhagavatam, we understand that Bali Maharaj currently is in Sutal Loka, and after this Manvantara, in the next Manvantara, when the next Manu's rule will come, Bali Maharaj in that Manvantara will become the king of the demigods, or will take the position of Lord Indra in the next Manvantara. So Bali Maharaj will be the next Indra. It will be wonderful to see how Lord Indra in the next Manvantara, he will rule as a devotee. He is clearly a devotee and a surrendered devotee to the Lord. And the pastimes there are so many pastimes between Indra and the different living entities and devotees and the Lord himself. Cannot imagine, but it will be, I think, wonderful. So I'll stop here, quickly summarize. Here we discussed the pastime of Vaman Dev with Bali Maharaj. As a Brahmana, he came and he begged, because in the translation it's mentioned that without begging one no authority can take one's rightful possession. So the Lord, even though he owns everything, he's the proprietor of everything, he still comes to set an example. And because Bhagavad Gita also it's mentioned, yad acharit, general mass of people follow the great personalities, and Krishna himself comes and even though he does not need to do anything, he does to set example. And then we talked about Bali Maharaj giving everything, going against his spiritual master's instruction. He was in a dilemma and he chose to reject his spiritual master on the basis of scriptures. We quoted a couple of few verses where it is mentioned that if a spiritual master cannot deliver the disciple, then he's not fit to be a spiritual master. And Bali Maharaj did exactly that by rejecting his instruction. And he surrendered to the Lord. And then we talked about the importance of surrendering to the Lord. Bali Maharaj is also personified Atma Nivedanam in the 9 steps of devotional services. And we discussed some examples from Srila Prabhupada's own life, and how the Lord is very merciful. Sometimes he takes away things to give something better so that the devotee can serve him better, because that's the ultimate desire of that devotee. So I'll stop here, and I know we went over a couple minutes. If there are very quick questions or discussion, we can discuss. Otherwise, we'll stop. All right.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. I mean, maybe if you can just remind regarding the Bali Maharaj being, I mean, I know he has taken birth in the family of demons, but he is being a great personality. And I'm just trying to recollect our link, right? So I know Lord is on the demigod side. So he doesn't want Bali Maharaj to rule. Um,
Bali Maharaj is the great grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. We know that. He's from the clan of the demons. But I did not understand the question. I mean, okay, so there was a fight between Indra and Bali Maharaj, and Indra had taken, because Bali Maharaj was the great grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, and in that heritage, he wanted to regain everything, because Indra, after I forgot, but Bali Maharaj's son was Vish. But Indra had, after Hiranya, had regained everything, and to take a revenge, Bali Maharaj had gone back to take back all the lands. That's my understanding.
yeah, thank you, Prabhu. I think one thing I mean, when you are saying that, I think it's something came to me. I mean, because the Lord is wanted to continue the process or the setup that He has done, right? The demigod supposed to be in that position, and they,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I think.
Oh, yes, yes. And then the demigods had gone like to Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma went to Shirodaka Sai Vishnu, and then they prayed, and he had said that I will come at
Yeah,
an appropriate time to give you back. And that's when Diti also wanted a Lord as a son, and the demigods also wanted him to come. So he did multiple things and came and facilitated giving the lands back to the demigods, because that's what it's supposed to be. Indra is supposed to be the ruler.
thank you. And Bali Maharaj also became Mahajan by doing that. So.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. And